As we move into the month of August, I want to take this time to be able to explain a little bit about some of the legislation that we passed through the House of Representatives. I'm pleased to be able to report to you that the House of Representatives has stood up for small businesses, the #1 job creator in this country, creating 7 out of 10 new jobs that are desperately needed, particularly in the area of the 3rd Congressional District, where we continue to see double-digit unemployment impacting our communities and making it hard for moms and dads to be able to plan for their future and to be able to provide for their families. The red tape moratorium bill that we passed through the House of Representatives is addressing one of the fundamental concerns that we heard as we traveled throughout the 3rd Congressional District from our small businesses. The moving bar that we continue to see out of Washington, D.C., adding more rules, more regulations, more cost to small businesses that are just right now trying to be able to survive, and many just hanging on by their fingernails. This is a good piece of legislation to address overregulation, to create a pause so that we can look at the rules and regulations in place, and will certainly be supplemented by the REINS Act that we passed earlier this year to re-engage Congress into that process of examining rules and regulations and how they impact businesses. We also passed legislation that had been introduced for many years by Representative Ron Paul, a bill that I proudly co-sponsored to make sure that we audit the Fed. No agency, no bureau, no level of government should be on the scrutiny of Congress. We need to make sure that we are seeing what is being done with the American taxpayers' dollars and doing everything that we possibly can to make sure that we're moving this economy forward. Just the other day, we passed legislation in terms of a tax proposal as well to be able to stimulate economic growth, to be able to support our small businesses, and to make sure that we're keeping our eye on what is most important right now. That is getting this economy moving, creating jobs, and giving an opportunity for our families to be able to provide for themselves. On our end specifically here out of our office in the 3rd Congressional District, I'm pleased to report to you that we successfully moved through the Natural Resources Committee our bill for Healthy Forest Management Act of 2012 to be able to address the devastating bark beetle kill that we're seeing throughout the 3rd Congressional District and indeed the entire state of Colorado. A good piece of common sense legislation to be able to engage our governor, our county commissioners, our local folks in determining that real threat that we live with and we see every day. To be able to protect our watersheds, to be able to protect those sensitive environmental areas, to be able to protect endangered species, and to be able to protect our communities and our businesses as well. We're hopeful that this legislation is going to be able to move to the floor in September for final passage and that it will receive a favorable reception in the United States Senate. We've also been able to clear through the legislation that has addressed a variety of concerns in terms of addressing jobs that we've talked to you about before. The hydroelectric bill, which we had passed earlier through the full House of Representatives with bipartisan support. Our bill to be able to plan for America's energy future and make sure that we're using our resources on American soil to be able to create American jobs, put Americans back to work, and create American energy certainty. One other important piece of legislation which we just put in to correspond with the move for tax adjustment in this country and a real review process is a bill to be able to help protect our farmers, our ranchers, and our small businesses. It is the Family Farm and Small Business Tax Relief Act of 2012. This is a bill designed to be able to address the death tax. As I went through the San Luis Valley, over into Pueblo, Durango, Cortez, Montrose, Grand Junction, Craig, throughout the 3rd Congressional District, I continue to hear concern from our farmers, ranchers, our small businesses about that ability to be able to keep the business going, to be able to keep those employees that they work with employed. It is threatened by the proposal now that the President has put forward in terms of adjusting the death tax downward so that government is first in line. Let's put our employees, these small businesses, first in line for a change to make sure that we're going to be able to preserve those jobs. The legislation that I've introduced will provide that opportunity for the businesses, the farms, the ranches, to be able to continue, to be passed to that next generation, to preserve those jobs and to be able to grow those businesses and to create more jobs right now when we need them most in the 3rd Congressional District. During this coming month of August, we're going to be out traveling throughout our entire district, holding town hall meetings, visiting with our folks, going in and visiting with businesses to be able to hear their concerns, These are the messages that we'll bring back to Washington in September as we continue to fight to get this economy moving, to be able to create jobs, and to stand up for our folks at home.